Hi, my name is Nyarai. I'm a 30-year-old lady who grew up in the ghetto, Old Mabvuku to be exact. Chacha Street was my street. That road had all kinds of characters and more stories than you could ever finish telling. Growing up there meant living through drama, endless gossip, neighbours fighting, others laughing together, you name it, Chacha had it. I'll be narrating the stories of different households, the whispers that spread faster than fire, and the secrets we picked up along the way. Every Sunday afternoon, me and 3 of my closest friends, Rudo, Change and Moses, had our ritual. We'd sit outside Rudo's front foya. Us girls would be wrapped in our favourite zambias, plain t-shirts and dukes tied neatly on our heads. And Moses? He never left his famous black cap. In the hood, they didn't even call him by his full name anymore. He was just Moses Weecap. If you saw the 4 of us there, sipping ice-cold drinks and crunching biscuits, you already knew the latest gossip of Chacha Street was about to drop. So let me take you straight into the latest burning story of number 10 and 12 Chacha Street. Number 10 was home to the Muriro family. Mr. and Mrs. Muriro had been married for years, blessed with 6 children. The first 4 were already grown, out there trying to hustle their way through life, while the last 2 were still in high school. Mr. Muriro worked as an engineer at PTC, a solid job back then, while Mrs. Muriro was a housewife. Well, technically a housewife, but truth be told, she spent most of her time moving between the city and their rural home. Now, in the ghetto, most houses were just small 2-bedroomed matchboxes. But the Muriros had managed to extend theirs into a 4-bedroomed house just to make space for all those kids. It was one of the bigger houses on the street, respectable, stable-looking, the type of place you wouldn't expect drama to be boiling. But here's the twist. The kind of secret that only a few sharp-eyed neighbours picked up. Behind those walls, Mr. Muriro had been carrying on an affair with none other than his neighbour's wife. Mrs. Mushonga from number 12. Number 12 was the Mushonga household. Mrs. Mushonga worked as a primary school teacher, while her husband was a truck driver. Because of his job, he was hardly ever around. Most of the week he'd be out on the road, hauling goods between towns, only coming home after long trips. Together they had 3 children. Now let me tell you about Mrs. Mushonga. She wasn't just any ordinary woman on Chacha Street. She was beautiful in that natural, graceful way, the type who didn't need to shout to be noticed. Calm, soft-spoken, always carrying herself with dignity. People in the street respected her, admired her even. To most residents, she was the picture of a perfect homemaker. Always neat, always working hard, side by side with her husband to build their family. And you could see the results of her effort. Her kids didn't run around barefoot like most of us did. No, they were dressed proper, attending good schools all the way across Samora in Harare. It was clear the Mushongas were investing in their children's future. Because of that, nobody, and I mean nobody, ever expected Mrs. Mushonga to be the type to step out on her husband. She was the last person you'd think would end up tangled in the biggest street scandal Chacha had seen in a while. The whole secret started one random night when Shingi, our street drunkard, was walking home from the local beer hall. That night, surprisingly, he wasn't too wasted. His mind was clear enough to actually notice things. As he staggered past number 12, he froze. What he saw nearly sobered him up completely. It was Mr. Muriro, sneaking into Mrs. Mushonga's yard. The way he kept looking over his shoulder, pausing at every small sound, you could tell the man was up to no good. He gently closed the metal gate without a single clang, like a thief in his own neighbourhood. The kitchen door at Mrs. Mushonga's house was slightly open. Inside, all the main lights were off. Only a small portable torch was glowing faintly, casting shadows against the walls. The whole yard was silent. Too silent. Now, Shingi being Shingi, he wasn't just going to walk away. Curiosity caught him, so he crossed over and settled under the big avocado tree at number 15, directly opposite. At first, he was dozing off, head nodding as the beer tried to take him under. Something crawled across his arm, snapping him awake, and he thought of just giving up and going home. But just then, the faint torchlight flickered again from inside number 12. Shingi ducked lower under the tree. The night stretched on until, around 3:30 in the morning, he finally saw movement. Mr. Muriro appeared again, this time sneaking out of the Mushonga's house. He was holding his shoes in his hand, tiptoeing like a teenager after curfew. Carefully, he opened his own gate, slid inside, and disappeared into his yard like nothing had happened. Shingi didn't just let it go that one night. Nah, this was prime ghetto entertainment, and he had a front row seat. So he started keeping tabs on Mr. Muriro, quietly monitoring his movements. It didn't take long for a pattern to emerge. Every time Mr. Mushonga was away on a long haul with work, things would kick off at number 12. And every time Mrs. Muriro was in town, well, that's when the action happened. Shingi could hardly believe his eyes sometimes, the way Mr. Muriro would slip out of his house, tiptoe across the street like a shadow, meeting Mrs. Mushonga somewhere in the dark corners of her yard. It was like watching a secret play unfold live, right in the middle of Chacha Street. The man was bold, but the street drunkard was bolder, and from under that avocado tree at number 15, Shingi saw everything. Shingi became almost a fixture under that avocado tree at number 15. Nights blurred together, but he didn't mind. He had front row seats to the secret life of Chacha Street's perfect families. He noticed little things too. How Mr. Muriro would check over his shoulder before stepping out. How Mrs. Mushonga would quietly slip the torch into her pocket as soon as she heard a car passing. Every movement, every cautious glance, Shingi saw it all. And the more he watched, the clearer the pattern became. It was always the same. Whenever her husband was away, whenever Mrs. Muriro was in town, the two of them would meet. And it wasn't just once or twice. It was regular, almost like clockwork. Shingi even started timing it, making mental notes of hours and days. Some nights he would get sleepy, almost dozing off, but his curiosity kept him glued. He felt like he had stumbled upon a treasure, a story the whole street would talk about for months once it came out. One faithful Sunday afternoon, me and my usual crew were doing our chill thing, sipping cream soda and munching on Charon's biscuits. The sun was lazy, the street was buzzing with its usual sounds, and we were just enjoying the slow pace of the day. Shingi was unusually sober that day, which in itself was already suspicious. He came over with a warm smile, plopped down right next to us, and for once, didn't stumble over his words. "Guys," he started, leaning in a little, "have you noticed that my Mushonga's youngest daughter? She looks nothing like her other siblings. I mean, just look at the shape of her head, the skin complexion, her teeth. She's nowhere near like the rest of them." We all froze for a second, letting his words sink in. The street was suddenly quieter in our heads as we thought about it. Then Moses piped up, leaning forward with that mischievous grin of his. "We. Tell us your story, Shingi. Don't keep us hanging." Shingi nodded, took a slow sip of his soda, and then began to narrate. How he had been watching Mr. Muriro's movements for weeks, noting every sneaky night, every tiptoe across the street, every time Mrs. Mushonga's husband was away. The story spilled out like warm tea, and we were all ears, ready for every single detail. Shingi took a deep breath, leaned back and squinted at us like he was about to drop the heaviest news the street had ever seen. "So listen, it all started weeks back," he said, waving one hand like he was conducting an orchestra of secrets. "I was walking home late, yeah? And I saw this man, Mr. Muriro, sneaking across the street like a cat. You know the way he looked, all nervous, checking left and right like someone was following him. And the Mrs. My Mushonga. She was standing at the kitchen door, torch in hand, looking like she was waiting for a ghost. Not a soul in sight. We all gasped. Even Moses' black cap seemed to tilt forward a little, as if it wanted to hear better. And it didn't stop there, Shingi continued, eyes wide, hands gesturing like he was painting the scene. Every time Mr. Mushonga was away, it was like clockwork. Muriro would sneak out, my Mushonga would be ready, and I swear, if you looked from my spot under the avocado tree at number 15, it was like watching a secret show. I even started timing it, 3:30 in the morning, maybe 4, sometimes later. And the crazy part? Muriro would come back holding his shoes, moving like a shadow, making sure no one saw a thing. Change, sitting cross-legged, shook her head slowly. Aish, Shingi, are you serious? That lady. She looks like the type to bless the street, not, you know. Exactly, Shingi said, slapping his knee. That's why it was so wild. And the kids. Now look at her youngest. Tell me that child looks like Mr. Mushonga's own. I've been staring at that kid for weeks too, and something just doesn't add up. Rudo leaned back on the foya, chewing her biscuit, trying not to laugh but failing. Chai, I'm telling you, this street is full of secrets. If the old man Muriro thinks he's slick, he's about to meet the Chacha gossip machine. I was shaking my head, half in disbelief, half in anticipation. The street was alive in our heads. I could almost hear the whispers of neighbours, the creak of gates opening at midnight, the rustle of feet on concrete. And in that moment, we all knew. This was the kind of story that would have Chacha buzzing for months. Even Moses, ever the quiet one, leaned in closer. So what happened next, Shingi? Don't leave us hanging. Shingi grinned like he was holding a full deck of secrets. Next, he said, eyes darting like he was making sure no one else had joined our circle. Next, my friends, we watch. We wait, and we let this drama unfold. And believe me, this one's only getting juicier. At first it was just slight whispers. A hushed comment here. A knowing glance there. Have you noticed? Someone would murmur while passing by number 12. But most people shook their heads and carried on. After all, my Mushonga had a reputation for being solid, hard-working, and respectable. Nobody wanted to believe that the perfect teacher on the street could be hiding such a scandal. So the story floated around quietly, never confirmed, never fully denied. It became one of those Chacha legends. A secret tucked in the shadows, spoken about only when the adults thought the kids weren't listening. Years passed. And then, one day, her youngest daughter had grown into a full-fledged young woman. Tall, strong features, the same skin tone, the same shape of head, and everyone who had whispered before finally did a double take. The resemblance to Mr. Muriro's youngest child was undeniable. That was the moment the whispers turned into full-blown gossip. Suddenly, the quiet speculation that had floated around Chacha for years snapped into sharp, loud talk. People shook their heads, some chuckled nervously, others exchanged knowing looks. The street had known the secret all along, but now the proof was staring them in the face. And as always on Chacha Street, once a story hits, it spreads faster than fire in the dry season. It was one of those slow, sticky afternoons on Chacha Street. Me, Rudo, Change, and Moses were stretched out on Rudo's front foyer, sipping cold cream soda and cracking Charon's biscuits. The sun was baking the yard, and the street felt quiet, too quiet for our liking. That's when Shingi, our favourite street drama chronicler, leaned over and whispered, "Have you seen Mr. Museka around lately?" Immediately, Moses sat up straight, his black cap tilted like he was trying to get a better look around the corner. "Which one?" he asked. "The council clerk guy? The Malawi one?" "Yes, that one," Shingi said, his eyes wide. The one with the, Mubhobho. We all leaned closer, even though we'd heard the rumors before. Mubhobho? I asked, raising an eyebrow. Yeah, spiritual sexual Bluetooth, Shingi said with a half grin, half shiver. I'm telling you, one handshake and Yamawanatanga. You're hooked. Some girls don't even know why they can't sleep, or why their mind keeps drifting back to him. The street knows. Rudo laughed nervously, trying to play it cool. Aish, Shingi, that sounds like street fairy tales. You're going to scare the kids. But Moses wasn't laughing. No, I've seen him in action. He leaned forward, lowering his voice. Last week he came down the street in that white shirt, polished shoes, walking like he owned the sun, that young girl from number 7. She smiled at him, and I swear, she was dazed, staring at him like he just cast a spell. Change shook her head, biting into her biscuit. Ish, that's creepy. He's a grown man, single and mysterious, the kind of man the street whispers about for years. Just then, the sound of polished shoes against concrete made us all stiffen. From the corner of the street, Mr. Museka appeared, walking slowly, head high, papers tucked under his arm. His presence was magnetic. Shingi almost dropped his soda. Yeah, there he is, Shingi muttered, eyes fixed. See the way he moves? Smooth, calm, dangerous calm. I wouldn't shake his hand even if you paid me. Moses, ever the brave one, nudged me. You see? That's the guy. Watch how people step aside when he passes. Even grown men don't mess with him. We all fell silent, watching him move down the street. There was something about him that made your stomach tighten. Curiosity, fear, respect, all mixed into one. And as he disappeared around the corner, we all let out a quiet sigh, hearts racing from a mixture of awe and dread. That afternoon, we added another story to our Sunday sessions. Mr. Museka wasn't just a man on Chacha Street. He was a legend, a warning, a shadow that stretched across the yards, whispered about in hushed tones, and remembered long after the sun set. It didn't take long for Mr. Museka's legend to become reality. The next victim, or participant, depending on how you look at it, was Amai Banda, the widow from number 8. She was a quiet woman, hard-working, raising her 2 children on her own, respected by everyone in the street for keeping her life together despite everything. But Mr. Museka, he had a way. It started with a friendly chat at the corner store. Amai Banda was buying flour and sugar when he appeared, all calm and polite, tipping his hat like he belonged in a movie. Good afternoon, madam, he said, voice smooth like velvet. She nodded, smiling politely, but didn't think much of it. Over the next few weeks, it became routine. He'd stop to ask about her children, comment on the weather, compliment her cooking, and always shake her hand. Just that subtle handshake that everyone whispered about. And just like the street said, Yamawanatanga. Amai Banda started thinking about him at night, dreaming about his calm eyes and quiet smile. At first, she laughed it off. Nyarai, you're imagining things, she'd tell herself. But then he appeared at her yard one evening, offering to help fix the leaking tap. One thing led to another. A cup of tea here, a conversation there. And slowly, the widow who had been so careful with her heart found herself drawn into his orbit. By the 3rd week, it was full-blown. Late nights, whispered meetings in the yard, secret conversations through the fence. The children were asleep, the street silent, and the moon watched as 2 adults played a dangerous game behind closed gates. Every handshake, every smile, every word from Mr. Museka seemed to pull her closer, like some invisible thread tying her to him. And the street? Well, Shingi saw it all from under his avocado tree at number 15. He swore he could almost see the Mubhobho in action. The way she would smile at nothing. The way her heart raced when he was around. The way her eyes seemed to follow him even when he wasn't there. Amai Banda had fallen completely into his web. And the gossip, of course, didn't take long to begin. First whispered, then murmured, then full-blown. But by that point, everyone knew. Mr. Museka didn't need words to charm women. The street's legend was alive, and Chacha was buzzing like a hive with the news. Word travelled through Chacha Street like fire in dry grass. At first, it was subtle. A raised eyebrow here, a quiet whisper there. "Have you seen Amai Banda lately?" someone would murmur while passing by number 8. "She seems different." Some neighbours noticed the small signs. She was laughing more than usual, walking with a lightness that made her kids stare. Her hair smelled of someone else's cologne, and she always seemed to have a story about someone helping her with the yard or errands. The street knew something was going on. But like all good gossip, not everyone believed it at first. "Amai Banda?" they'd scoff. "That widow? She's too sensible for Mr. Museka's nonsense." Others shrugged, pretending not to notice, even as they exchanged knowing glances when he walked past. Shingi, of course, kept his front row seat under the avocado tree at number 15. Every secret smile, every tiptoe visit, every whispered meeting across fences. He recorded it all in his mind. He chuckled quietly, shaking his head. "The street knew before she did," he muttered to Moses one Sunday while we sat sipping cream soda. Even the kids felt the tension, noticing how neighbours whispered and peeked out windows. Old Auntie Tandy would stand at her gate, shaking her head and muttering, "Chai, the men on this street. Some things you just cannot fight." By the time the affair had been going for months, the street wasn't just whispering. It was buzzing. Women gossiped over washing lines, men nudged each other with knowing smiles, and everyone who walked past number 8 felt the invisible heat of secrets behind closed gates. Amai Banda, caught up in the charm and pull of Mr. Museka's Mubhobho, barely noticed the street watching. But Chacha Street never sleeps. Every glance, every gesture, every secret meeting had eyes on it. The street was alive, watching, and ready to feast on every juicy detail. Eventually, some of the bolder neighbours decided enough was enough. They thought they could step in, give Amai Banda a little nudge, maybe even call out Mr. Museka for what he was doing. Old Auntie Tandy was the first to try, cornering the widow at the water tap one afternoon. "Chai, my daughter, this man, this Museka, you know where this road ends, don't you?" Amai Banda just smiled politely, nodding, then went about her business. She didn't shout, didn't argue, but the subtle calm in her eyes told everyone one thing: back off. A few men tried too, dropping hints or passing warnings through friends. "Beware, Musa Banda, this one's dangerous," they muttered, hoping she'd hear it. But it didn't work. She was too far gone, caught up in the pull of Mr. Museka's charm and his invisible Mubhobho. So slowly, the neighbours learned the hard way. The street tried to intervene, but Amai Banda made it clear. Her business was hers, and Mr. Museka's magic, real or imagined, was not to be questioned. And that's when Chacha Street learned the golden rule. Sometimes you watch, but you don't step in. You gossip, you speculate, you shake your head, but you let the drama unfold from a safe distance. From then on, people watched the affair like it was theatre. Children whispered, women glanced, men smirked, and Shingi, well, he had a permanent front row seat under his avocado tree at number 15. Every late-night meeting, every suspicious smile, every small touch or gesture was logged in his mind, ready to be retold on Sundays with extra flair. The street learned to mind its own business, but oh, how it loved the show. Our next story is about the Yonasi family. or as some of the street like to call them in English, the Jones family. Yo, where do I even start? Mr. Jonasi was a man with a type. Over the years, he had married several women, some of those marriages lasting only a month, others maybe 2 years at most. But there was something that tied all these women together. They were light-skinned, beautiful, educated, with curves that would make your jaw drop. Honestly, if you didn't know better, you'd swear they were South African. Sham. These women were stunning, but the real drama started with his last wife. After leaving his previous wife, he married a woman who worked as a nurse at a private hospital. The street soon caught wind of rumours, whispered stories about her cheating on her husband with one of the doctors at the hospital. It wasn't hard to see why the gossip spread. People often spotted her being dropped off a few streets away from her home. Always the same car, same guy, and almost the same time every day. Chacha Street is small, so nothing escapes notice. We'd watch, squinting down the road, nodding at each other as the pattern became obvious. And the thing about Mr. Jonasi, even though he was flashy and sometimes careless, he had that kind of power and money that made people hesitate before confronting him. So everyone watched, quietly, intensely, with a mix of awe and envy, as the Jones family's drama grew. The rumours finally reached Mr. Jonasi. You know how news travels in Chacha, fast and loud. At first he tried to brush it off, but the whispers kept gnawing at him. "Is my wife really playing me?" he muttered one evening, pacing around his fancy car in the driveway. Then one day, the man decided to take matters into his own hands. Instead of calling her out or confronting the doctor directly, he parked himself a few streets away from their home, sitting in his sleek black car, engine off, eyes fixed on her usual route. By now, the street had caught wind that something was brewing. Kids peeped from behind walls, neighbours whispered behind curtains, and even Shingi, from his usual vantage point under the avocado tree, couldn't resist sneaking a look. Hours passed. Sun dipped low, painting the street gold. And then, like clockwork, the familiar car appeared. She stepped out, laughing at something the driver said, and strolled down the street toward the distant house where she was usually dropped off. Mr. Jonasi's hands tightened around the steering wheel. The jealousy, the anger, the fear of losing control, it all boiled over. He wanted to shout, to storm out, to confront her then and there. But something kept him frozen. Pride, power, and the spectacle of it all. The street held its breath. Even the wind seemed to pause as this man, usually so confident and untouchable, watched the woman he married walk toward another man's house. And that's how the romantic chaos began. Chacha Street, watching every step, every gesture, waiting to see if Mr. Jonasi would explode or if the drama would quietly spiral into something even messier. Unfolded like a soap opera in our very own street. Mr. Jonasi's patience snapped the moment he saw it. From his spot in the sleek black car, parked a safe distance away, he saw her leaning close to the man in the driver's seat, laughing softly. And then, the kiss. Not a quick peck, nah, a proper, passionate kiss that made his chest tighten, stomach twist, and mind go fuzzy with a mix of rage and disbelief. For a second, he froze. He couldn't believe his eyes. The street seemed to hold its breath along with him. Children peeking from walls, neighbours glancing from their gates, even Shingi under his avocado tree had paused mid-chew on his biscuit. Every eye on Chacha that afternoon could almost feel the tension radiating off Mr. Jonasi. Then he slammed the car door open, the sound echoing down the street like a gunshot. "You!" he roared, stepping toward them, anger boiling in every step. His voice carried, bouncing off the walls of the street, grabbing attention like a live wire. The woman, startled, tried to pull away. The man beside her froze, guilt written all over his face. But Mr. Jonasi wasn't about words anymore. His fists clenched, jaw tight, the kind of fury that made even grown men in the street take a step back. Neighbours poured out from their yards, drawn by the chaos. Women gasped, hands over mouths, while the men muttered, shaking their heads. "Aish, this one will end badly," someone whispered. The scene unfolded like theatre. Romantic betrayal spilling into the open, pride and passion clashing on the concrete stage of Chacha Street. And in true ghetto fashion, the street didn't intervene. Everyone watched, some rooting for him, others curious about how it would all end. That afternoon, Mr. Jonassy's world of secrets exploded in the middle of the street, leaving no one untouched by the drama. Everyone on Chacha Street thought they knew Mr. Jonasy. A smooth-talking player, always chasing beauty, money, and power. But that day, the street learned something new. Even the slickest man can be played, by the one he thought he controlled. After the explosive scene of the kiss, Mr. Jonasy stormed toward the car, chest heaving, mind racing. But by the time he got there, the truth hit him like a lightning bolt. The man in the car wasn't her lover at all. No, it was a decoy. Someone she had hired to make him see exactly what he feared. His wife, the one everyone thought was innocent, educated and elegant, had been playing him all along. Every suspicious glance, every whispered conversation he had noticed, every time she left the house at odd hours, it had all been carefully choreographed. She had turned the hunter into the prey. The street gasped as the truth slowly filtered out. People who had laughed at his reputation now smirked knowingly, whispering to each other, "Chai, the Jonasy man, he finally met his match." Even Shingi under the avocado tree let out a low whistle, nodding at the brilliance of the plan. Mr. Jonasy stood frozen, chest tight, pride shattered. His own wife had taken the game he thought he owned and flipped it on him. And the street? They watched. They always watched. Chacha had front row seats to the ultimate reversal. The player, caught in a trap of his own making. From that day on, the story of Mr. Jonasy and his cunning wife became legend. People whispered it to their children, told it at the beer hall, and repeated it every Sunday at Rudo's front foya. The moral was clear. On Chacha Street, no matter how smooth you are, someone might just be smoother. After the ultimate twist with Mr. Jonasy, the street was buzzing like a hive. From number 1 to number 20, every gate had eyes, every yard had ears. People whispered, speculated, and laughed, sometimes all at once. At the local beer hall, men shook their heads in disbelief. "Yeah, that Jonasy man. Thought he was the king, now he's the jester," someone muttered over a cold castle. Others nodded, adding details they weren't even sure were true. "I heard she even hired the guy in the car to scare him, just to teach him a lesson." Women in the street had their own commentary, gathered around water taps and laundry lines. "Chai, that one clever. If you think he's controlling her, you better watch yourself. That woman is sharper than all the men combined." They laughed, shaking their heads. Some even whispered to their daughters, warning them about smooth-talking men who think they're untouchable. Even the kids had a field day. They ran past number 12, mimicking Mr. Jonasy's angry stomps, shouting, "The player got played!" Their laughter echoed down the street, making even the adults smile despite the drama. And Shingi? Oh, Shingi was in his element. Under his avocado tree at number 15, he had a notebook now, scribbling down every detail for Sunday storytelling. "This one is going to be remembered for years," he muttered to Moses. "The Jonasy saga. Oh, it's a masterpiece." Meanwhile, Mr. Jonasy had retreated into his house, nursing his bruised ego, while his wife walked with quiet confidence, knowing the street was watching and the story was hers to control. The moral? On Chacha Street, even the most confident man can be humbled, and the street will never let anyone forget it. For weeks, The saga was the main topic during Sunday chill sessions, during water runs, and even during the occasional quarrels between neighbours. Every gesture, every glance, every whisper kept the legend alive. Chacha had a new tale, and like all great stories here, it would grow bigger with every telling. Yo Shamwaris, and that's a wrap for the first part of Chacha Street Tales. From Mr. Muriro's secret nights to Mr. Museka and his Mubhobho, all the way to the Jonasi family chaos, Chacha Street never sleeps, and you know the gossip never stops. If you enjoyed this ride, make sure you smash that like button, drop a comment below, and subscribe so you don't miss the next part. Because trust me, the street has a lot more drama, secrets, and jaw-dropping stories coming your way. And Shamwaris. Remember, on Chacha Street, everyone is watching, everyone is talking, and every secret has a price. Peace, love, and all the drama. Nyarai, for staying till the end on Mwana wa Mambo Tales. If you felt the vibe, hit the like button, drop a comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to tap that notification bell so you never miss a new drop. Stay soft, stay sharp, and keep sipping the tea. See you in the next story.